But that's allowed. It's halal. But it's not okay with my wife. All right, just want to clarify everything. During the month in which the prophet began his mission, the Qur'an was sent down to the lower heavens. The trustworthy angel Jibril, after he heard the Qur'an from Allah and revealed it to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and preserved it faithfully without any alteration, and then passed it on to mankind. Now we're going to talk a little bit. Is everybody clear about the three stages? Oh, mashallah. Okay. Now we're going to talk about the 11 opinions about the first and last. Well, there's 11 about the first revelation, and I believe, if I remember correctly, about 4 about the last revelation. So we're going to move into that, inshallah, today. The changing point in the life of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and for all of humanity afterwards was the occurrence of the first revelation that Allah communicated to him. From this point onward, he had a mission like no human before him. In Surah 42:7, so that you may warn the mother cities and all that surrounds it. It's a very powerful verse that, as a matter of fact, I had never really seen this verse for a long time. For some reason I just missed this verse. Very powerful verse. That you may warn the mother city, the mother of cities, and all that surrounds it. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was a messenger, a mercy to what? To all mankind. The previous messengers were sent to a particular people. Yes, Brother Larry.
Well, what is the mother of cities?
I'm going to cover that. I'm going to cover what that means on the next slide. Some people thought the mother of cities meant Mecca. But most scholars say it means all of the lands of the east and the west, which I have put on the next slide here. In the Tafsir of Ibn Kathir, he says that this means all the lands of the east and the west. Now there's a hadith about the sun rising in the east. Everybody heard this hadith?
Yeah.
Most scholars believe that that hadith is referring to all the reversions to Islam that's happening in the United States today. Allahu Akbar. According to Pew Research, the Christian church is declining annually in its membership. The Jewish faith is declining annually in its membership. The Catholic Church is declining annually. All you got to do is go to the computer, Google Pew Research, and you can get your numbers. But Islam is growing every year. And here's what concerns me, folks.
Regardless of Muslims being as the worst enemy of Islam.
We have a lot of people embracing the religion, but how many people are practicing the religion?
Yeah.
We have the perfect religion, but with imperfect people. And that's why we're trying to perfect our deen. Why we're trying to perfect our iman. We're trying to grow in this faith and to be the best people involved. We have this perfect criteria. So I'm not impressed with the fact that we're growing. I will be impressed when we are evolving. Whenever people will say, I want a Muslim neighbor. Because if I have a Muslim neighbor and I go away on vacation, my house will be guarded. If I have a Muslim neighbor, I can trust them to get my mail and they won't steal my Social Security check. If I have a Muslim neighbor, every Ramadan, they're going to bring me some good food. If I have a Muslim neighbor and I need to go to the doctor, they're going to take me to the doctor. If I have a Muslim neighbor, they're going to include me. They're going to invite me. They're going to engage me. And most importantly, I'm going to feel safe with them. As the Quran says, if an idolater comes to you, invite them to the way of Islam. If they don't accept it, take them to a place of safety. If you know a Muslim people, that should be the safest human being you can ever be with in your life. No one in the world should be Psalm said, a Muslim is one in whom you are safe from his tongue and hand. A mu'min, a believer, an elevated Muslim is one in whom you can entrust your life and property. We got a lot of growing to do, folks. If we have 20% increase every year, but we got a bunch of gossip, slandering people that are slandering their wives and doing that kind of stuff, I'm not impressed. I'm impressed when we realize the call of Allah and what He's commanded us to do in this Qur'an and Sunnah that we're studying. Yes, brother.
You might be able to confirm this to me, but I believe didn't the Prophet say something like the amount of Muslims will increase, but the practice of Islam will decrease?
Absolutely. That's authentic. But we still have to encourage people, and that's why we have this class. I mean, really and truly, the very essence of this class is my prayer that every one of you have spiritual goals, that you are the rocks in this community, that you are the people that stand out in this community as that's a Muslim. I can tell that sister anything about my life, and I know that she will never tell it. I can trust her with my life. I can tell her horrible things that might have happened to me in life, and she's never going to tell another soul. My life is safe in her hands. And the same thing with the brothers. I just used the example for the women because we have more women. So, in no uncertain terms, the Quran lays out the monumental task of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ in Surah 7, verse 158. Say, O mankind, verily I am sent to you all. I didn't know that the Quran was written in Southern. I'm sent to y'all as the messenger of Allah, to whom belongs the dominions of the heavens and the earth. It's sent to you all. The Prophet was the recipient of Allah's final revelation to all mankind. Surah 26, verse 192 to 194. And truly this Quran is a revelation from the Lord of the world, which the trustworthy spirit, angel Jibreel, brought down upon your heart, O Muhammad, so that you may be one of the warners. So what was the first revelation received? There are 4 opinions. So I mixed it up. There are 4 about the first and 11 about the last. Okay. I'm going to give you those opinions, and I want you to listen up. I want you to look for a theme in these opinions. And if you come up with something, it's okay to be wrong, folks. I want you to think. I want you to look beyond, look out of the box. So as I began to present these opinions, I want you to see if you see a red thread there, or see any kind of connection. The first 5 verses of Surah Al-Alaq. Surah 96, verses 1 through 5. And this is what they say. Read in the name of your Lord who has created all that exists. He created man from a clot. Read, verily your Lord is most generous, who has taught the writing by the pen, has taught man that which he knew not.
What surah is that again?
Surah 96, 26, verse 192 to 190. I'm sorry, Surah 96, verses 1 through 5. Surah 96, verses 1 through 5. Okay. Now, what you're going to notice in this class, and this is why I want you to listen up. This is another reason why you have to have a teacher. I'm going to give you some proofs for contradicting opinions. And then I'm going to explain it to you, inshallah, if Allah gives me help and life. Proof of this opinion is the hadith by Al-Bukhari from Aisha, in which she said the commencement of the divine revelation to Allah's messenger was in the form of good dreams, which came true like the bright daylight. Then the love of seclusion was bestowed upon him. He used to go for seclusion to the cave of Hira, where he used to worship Allah continuously for many days, before his desire to see his family caused him to return. He used to take with him food for the stay, and then come back to Khadijah to take his food again, until the truth descended upon him while he was in the cave of Hira. The angel Jibril came to him and asked him to read. The prophet responded, I do not know how to read. Yahamakallah. The prophet added, the angel grabbed me forcefully and pressed me so hard that I could not bear it anymore. He then released me and again asked me, read, Iqra, Bismillah. And again I replied, I do not know how to read. Thereupon he caught me for the second time and pressed me until I could not bear it. He then released me and asked me to read again. I again responded, I do not know how to read. In another revelation or narration, of the hadith, it says, what shall I read? So you see the little difference there. What shall I read? Thereupon he caught me for the third time and pressed me and then released me and said, Surah 96 verses 1 through 5, read in the name of your Lord who created man from a clot. Read, and your Lord is most generous. Can you imagine, folks, for a moment being told to read and you don't know how to read? Or being told to recite and you don't know how to recite? It's like going to a child and telling them, say something, and they don't know how to talk yet. It's phenomenal. This indeed clearly shows that this was the first revelation that the prophet received. Now here's a second opinion. Surah al-Muddathir, there's a shadda on the dal there, Muddathir, Surah 74 verse 1, is also sometimes referred to as the first revelation. Listen up, folks. The proof given for this is based on another hadith in Al-Bukhari, in which Jabir ibn Abdullah was asked, what part of the Quran was revealed first? He replied, say, O you enveloped in garments, which comes from Surah 74:1. The questioner then said, I was informed it was Surah 96:1. Read in the name of your Lord. Jabir replied, I am telling you that which I heard from the prophet, for he said, I was in the mountain of Hira, and when I came down to the valley, I heard a voice. So I looked to the right, and I looked to the left, and in front of me, and behind me. Then I looked to the skies, and I saw him, meaning Jibreel, and a great fear overtook me. So I returned to Khadijah and told her to cover me. Allah then revealed, say, oh, you enveloped in garments, from Surah 74:1.
Enveloped.
Enveloped. That's the French way, right? Enveloped. Okay, enveloped. Okay. So, what do you see here, folks? Anybody see anything in this? Grammatically, what is it saying here? He said he returned to Khadijah, right? And what happened when he returned to Khadijah? She covered him. Had something happened before that was why he went to Khadijah? You guys are great. Exactly. So let's stay with it. This hadith has been explained by saying that Jabir told the questioner which surah had been revealed in its entirety first, since Surah al-Muddathir was revealed in its entirety before the remaining verses of Surah Al-Alaq. Do you understand what's going on here? Tell me what's going on, brother.
Well, Iqra was the first actual words revealed, and those were from Surah Al-Alaq, but the whole chapter of Al-Alaq was not revealed. But that there, on the other hand, was completed before the rest of Al-Alaq.
That's good thinking. We'll look more deeply, inshallah. Alternately, some scholars have claimed that Jabir was not present when the prophet began narrating the aforementioned hadith, in which he described his encounter with Jibreel, but entered when the prophet was midway his narration. Therefore, Jabir only heard the last part of the hadith. This opinion is supported by another narration of this hadith, in which Jabir stated that the Prophet ﷺ said, the first hadith explaining the encounter with Jibreel is explicit, that the first 5 verses of Surah Al-Alaq were revealed first. And the next revelation was Surah Al-Muddathir, sorry, making the second opinion weaker. While I was walking, listen folks, while I was walking, I heard a voice from the sky and the earth, from Sahih al-Bukhari. In this narration, Jabir mentions that the Prophet had already seen Jibril before this incident, proving the first revelation had already occurred. So here's the way I see this. I'm walking. Sister Naran is having a conversation with, and I'm having Ashley. But I'm walking in on it. I'm walking up. I did not hear the first part of the conversation, but I recorded what I heard when I got there. Something's missing, right? Alhamdulillah. So while I was walking to Naran and Ashley, I heard them talking. And then I told what I heard. Yes, brother.
The narration of that, is it in the 6 books of Hadith?
Yes, it is.
Or are they the same books?
These are all part of Al-Bukhari. And this, folks, is also why you do need, it's really important to have a teacher. Yes, you can learn about the essence of things. But do you see how, if you are one of those people that just read things blindly, you'll miss a lot. Or you might get confused. So it is important to try to really understand why something looks like a contradiction. And that's where we'll study a little bit more when we talk about the proximate reasons and occasions for a particular revelation. Even though we're talking about ahadith now, there are ahadith that if you do not understand the history or you don't read them correctly, they will appear to contradict. Correct? Does this sound like a contradiction? Is it authentic? Absolutely. Yes, brother. Did I?
No, just let me know about the prayer.
Oh yeah, prayers at 1 o'clock. Thank you for reminding me. So, what we'll do is we'll stop here, and if somebody reminds when we stop, we'll slide 90. And we'll come back, inshallah, next Sunday, and we'll cover all 4, and inshallah the 11 that our scholars present as the last revelations as well, inshallah. I love you all for the sake of Allah. You're a great class. You're the best. Inshallah, I'll see all of you next Sunday at the same time in the same place.
We all love you.
Thank you. I love you.
My teacher,